Hello and welcome to This Naked Chat, a podcast where six friends from different walks of life come together for honest, unscripted conversations about living alcohol-free and everything that comes with it. We all met at a live event hosted by Annie Grace of This Naked Mind in March of 2024. What started as a mastermind group with the six of us and Annie turned into some really deep friendships, filled with connection, tough conversations, and a lot of laughter. And after a year of growing and learning together, we realized that these conversations might help more than just us. So here we are, no scripts, just real talk. We are incredibly grateful to Annie and This Naked Mind for helping us get this off the ground and for the impact that her work has had on each of our lives. I am Brian, and I am joined by Kori, Agnes, Judi, Jenie, and Sammie. Let's dive in. Hello.
Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Let's see, today we have Jenie, Kori, Judi, and Brian, and we are going to talk about grief and suffering. Not necessarily how it relates to alcohol or anything like that, just in general, a conversation on grief and suffering.
And
Actually,
in that order.
Grief and suffering can lead to be an underlying to people with alcohol issues, right?
For sure.
So it's kind of a base. So it can relate to alcohol very easily.
Yeah. You and I just had a conversation about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Who wants to kick it off?
Go ahead, Jenie.
I really don't even know where to start with this. I was just this past week working on a little writing piece about something that happened 3 weeks after my father died. And memory is a funny thing in terms of how it distorts anyway, but it's a really funny thing in terms of how it can, I find, for my own self, distort grief. And make it, I don't know, I think in the acute moment around an event that's grief provoking, the grief is very dispersed into like the ether of a household, of a town, of a country in some instances. And then as time passes, I wonder if it doesn't get condensed into like this little Tide Pod equivalent that's present. And when I tap into that, it's very, very, very concentrated. So it's intense, but then it's pretty easy to walk away from, I guess. I'm kind of making this up literally as I go, as I'm thinking about my experience working on this piece last week. And that's interesting to me to see, reflect now back on, I mean, my father died 45 years ago. So reflecting back on how my grief has morphed over time, sure, I think we all have had that experience, but I've never thought about the concentration part.
So kind of like you distill it and like put it in a little box and almost put it away.
Yeah, like a Tide Pod, you know, just that image just came to me and I'm like, yeah, that's it. Because it's very concentrated. It's very, you know, it's a small little
portable
pouch. Yeah, it's a
Delicious.
small little pouch. So you,
Sorry, someone had to. I mean,
only if you're too.
I'm so glad it was you. Yeah, and you take it with you because it doesn't take up much room. Because,
I wonder.
I don't know.
Well,
Go ahead, Judi.
Well, I'm wondering, I just want to make sure I'm really understanding what you're saying before. So are you liking it to like when people do trauma work, right? Because if your dad died that long ago, you were young, and that was huge trauma. And so to survive it, we don't let go of it, because maybe if we let go of it, we're letting go of the reason we're grieving, which means we're letting go of that person. And until our psyche gets to a place that it's safe or okay to let go of that, can we then not let go of the grief? But I'm wondering if, like, when people have a trauma event, one of the practices is that, all right, let's put it in a container so it's not running your life. And then while it's in that container, if you want to open it up and work with it a little bit, fine, but then you can safely shut the box or the pod, if you will, so that it doesn't overwhelm your life. I'm wondering, so if that occurs naturally without really thinking about it, because that's called survival, if you get to a place where, if you've done it long enough, 45 years, does it then lose some fusion, or have you just gotten better at keeping it at bay?
I don't think I like what you're saying, and certainly that's what I've lived, but that it's different than what I was tapping into last week.
All right, that's what I want to understand.
Yeah.
That's what I want to understand.
And it's hard to make tangible because I hadn't really thought about it till just now. I think tapping into this moment in 1980, because it was a moment, was my choice on purpose to consciously remember what that felt like and what my response was as a then 15-year-old. I don't know. And somehow that feels distinct to me from containing a trauma safely, tapping into it as you're processing, closing it up if it's not a good day to do that. I don't know, somehow, and maybe it's all the same. Maybe I'm making a false distinction there that doesn't exist. But last week it felt different.
But it does exist because you're talking about it.
Yeah.
Well, and also, like, it is a trauma because it's a wound, right? I mean, that's what trauma is, and grief is a good example of a specific trauma where you are wounded and you probably won't ever be the same. You know, your parent dying is one of those kind of like watershed, seminal kind of moments in your life that you're just never going to be the same again. And also, like, trauma, sometimes you can, or really any emotion, right? Like, you can box it up and put it away because for any number of reasons, right? Like, maybe you unconsciously totally blocked that stuff out, or it was a conscious coping mechanism. But, like, I think the thing about grief specifically is that it is a wound and that it probably always be there. And the important part is, like, how are you dealing with that? Like Jenie's example, she's like opening up and looking at it and like thinking about it in, you know, different ways, exploring it. But sometimes we don't do that. We it starts spilling out of the box and we're like, shit, what do we do? How do we like get this back in the box? You know, what do we do with this?
That's how I was thinking about it too. Like and I was thinking about this. I was putting it in like when my dad passed away and I was in my 20s, but the level that I could deal with it back then and the emotional kind of like I've grown emotionally and especially like, you know, through therapy, learned some things. So now when I bring up that event or think back to those kind of times, I'm aware of things that I wasn't aware of then. You know, like for me, it's I delayed going back, and through my whole life, it's kind of like there was a pattern of like this lack of appreciation for the work that my dad did for me. So that makes me feel heavier, you know, than it did back then when I was just like, oh, well, you know, I don't know. There was something in that level of like, I've grown emotionally. So now it does feel heavier because I have more emotions that I can tap into.
Well, and it's really, grief is multifaceted, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't just say, well, my dad died.
Yeah.
Well, what does that, I mean, that's huge. How many things are attached to how many things, I mean, because I just went through it. That's why I started writing about suffering, is I just went through this whole big thing. My mom died 5 years ago, and I had so much guilt, and it wasn't like a righteous guilt. It was more guilt I put on myself, which was stupid, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like this multifaceted thing that you can lay it out and say, all right, mom died. So, and then you go, oh my gosh. And you're grieving this, and you're grieving this, and you're grieving this, and you're grieving childhood. You're grieving childhood you might not have had, and you're grieving all of these things. So that's why it takes forever, I think, because you have to hit every one of those little points.
Yeah.
So true.
No, the guilt
like
is a big piece.
Pulling
there.
a thread, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen Hamnet?
No.
Yes, I have.
So I think part of the reason this all, you know, has been rattling around, I mean, I love tapping into emotion through story. It's my favorite thing. I think it's what makes us human and ties all of humanity together. And Judi and Brian, the word I've used to people to describe the film is exquisite, because I think it is. It's one of the best movies I've seen in 20 years or more. And the reason is, you know, the prominent storyline feature is just the horrific death of an 11 or 12-year-old boy from the plague. And it's awful. It's horrible. So parents lose a kid. And by the way, he's a twin. And so, but it's not just about that. It is a film that makes tangible, I think, everything I've lived through with various deaths over the course of my life. It somehow makes it tangible and moving parts on the screen that show every aspect of grief bookended by joy and love. And it is so beautifully done. And it's just like that. That was my experience with every loss I've had. And so then I thought, well, I have some stories about this that might be fun to play with. And I mean, that's how I got on this recent writing tangent of mine.
You know, what's interesting about that movie too is like, it also depicts two parents who are processing the grief very differently. So yeah, it's interesting that you use that movie as the prompt, because it is about grief and all the other good stuff too, but also just, and how, I mean, it's like creating conflict between them because they're processing grief differently. Yeah, that's super interesting.
Which is totally to the point of grief is as individual as you are.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but, and there's no right or, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've sat with in my journeys that either somebody's overdosed, I'm with the family, you know, all of those kind of things, that there's no right or wrong way to do it. There isn't.
Yeah.
It's and if you judge yourself and how you're doing it, you're just asking for more pain. Just don't judge it. It is what it is, and just be there, which is hard enough. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and there are so many depictions in culture, right? In film, in books, in music, in our day-to-day. There's so much noise around this is how you do it. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross told us, you know, whenever it was in the early 70s, there are 5 stages and you do them in order.
Yeah.
And there's no, you just, once you finish stage 1, then you move on, you know, and I mean, it's all bullshit. It just, it is what it's going to be.
I mean, I think that model is helpful. It sort of normalized grief a lot more, and like, you know, normalizing those different stages, if you will, or experiences of it, because, you know, I do think like people think they're crazy, like when you're in denial, you know,
Yep.
and you just think, am I losing my flipping mind because I cannot accept that this has happened, you know? And so like that helped probably people to not feel like this is all normal. But yes, your point being like, it's not this linear thing, and you might jump around and it might even look different from these, like, you know, from these phases, but and you might not even feel anything, like, you know, I mean, your brain is doing some hoop jumping to protect you in these very sensitive times. And so you might not feel anything for a long time because your brain's just like, nope, can't handle this. Not feeling anything.
Right. That's right.
We're just going to walk through life for a while, and then finally it'll probably come.
And I think that's maybe one of the things that it did too, is that there's like a time period, right? Like, because like what we're talking about, or what you started with, Jenie, is this like, it can pop up so many years later.
Of course.
And you think, gosh, why am I not past this? And you're like, no, that's not how it works, man. It's like, you know, for some people, you know, I that's what I run into all the time. I'm like, gosh, I shouldn't feel like this anymore.
Right.
Like, no.
You know, to simplify that, because that's something that people always have said to me, and to simplify it, I'm like, well, you know, your subconscious brain is built to protect you, period, right? I mean, we know that, right? So my thought is that when your subconscious brain senses that you're ready to handle some of it, it'll release some of it. That I've always told people that, and that makes them feel better. They're kind of like, oh, all right, I'm not screwing up. No, you're human, and just allow that, and stop judging yourself about it.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by This Naked Mind, a revolutionary approach to changing your relationship with alcohol. When it comes to your drinking, you don't have to hit rock bottom to want something different, and you don't have to do it alone. This Naked Mind blends neuroscience, psychology, and self-compassion to help you stop relying on willpower and start creating real, lasting change. No shame, no labels, and no rules. Whether you want to take a break, drink less, or stop drinking for good, This Naked Mind has a program that meets you where you are, with world-class coaching and a compassionate, judgment-free community to support you every step of the way. Learn more about This Naked Mind at thisnakedmind.com.
How would y'all distinguish grief and suffering?
Judi.
Sometimes they overlap, right?
I don't know. I mean, grief is suffering.
Right.
Right? I mean,
Is
grief,
it a form of?
wouldn't you say? I mean, suffering is suffering. Are there forms of suffering? Well, emotional, physical, but whether you're physically suffering, you're still emotionally suffering. And I don't know about you, but emotional suffering for me is more painful. I mean, cut my leg off, but dang, don't mess with my head. Don't mess with my head.
Yep.
Because then we also have that voice going, yabba yabba, judging what this part of our brain is doing, and it becomes a vicious cycle.
It's a really interesting piece there, Judi, on the ways that you would stop physical suffering versus mental suffering. Gets to kind of the addiction-y type stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Where that physical suffering seems to be easier to taper or to lessen with regular things, right? Like, heaven forbid, a Tylenol or some, you know, and you need some stronger things for that mental sometimes. If you're if you're not ready to deal, like you're saying, with you're not what you put it perfectly, and I can't, you know, you can't handle it in your current mental state. So you need something stronger. Well,
because there's too much noise.
Exactly.
It explodes. Yeah. And unless you have some fabulous support, or you have it's a skill. It's a skill to shut it up long enough to jump in there and go, whoa, pull the reins on the horse a little bit, if you will.
Right.
So that you
and
don't
I think we've like been taught, right, to deal with it differently. I mean, it seems like, you know, we're able to handle physical pain. Like we can tolerate. I mean, people go every single day in pain, and they don't
Especially
do anything
men
about it.
like us.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just
you
kidding,
just
guys.
I mean, no, really, like men won't go to the doctor and stuff. And, and of course women, right. We have cycles and we like have pain every month and, we have childbirth and all the stuff. And like, we tolerate physical pain so much better. But I think that's just because that's what we learned to do. Like
It's more accepted by society.
and it's more accepted, right?
Rub
like,
some dirt on it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. Whereas like, mental anguish, we like, well, go get drunk and like blow off steam and, that'll
get
like,
over yourself.
fix it.
Just get over yourself already.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just exactly. Yeah. And, move on, buckle up, move on, whatever. Like we're never, it's never okay to, or we like, that's what we learned is like, it's not okay to like wallow, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's quite okay. Wallow, be sad, like let yourself, feel all the feelings. It's absolutely the thing you should do.
I've always been, well, not always, since 2020, been fascinated by what I learned then. The fundamental precept of Buddhism is that life is suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
You find joys in the moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, admittedly, that is kind of a Debbie Downer, I'm going to say. I don't really just like, get up and be like.
Yeah, but you can do that.
Oh.
Life
is suffering, so just buckle up, Buttercup. Yeah.
But then it is followed by the precept around impermanence also. Mm-hmm. And
true.
They kind of go hand in hand, I think.
And more of the like presency type stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Of like so much of the suffering comes from dwelling on something past or fretting on something in the future. Mm-hmm. Versus just living in the moment.
100%.
That's what catches me so much. Of like, oh, why am I even? And kind of to this whole point of it's okay to take it out of the box every once in a while and think on it. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's not necessarily to sit and dwell in it, or it's healthy. For sure. But sometimes it's okay to put it back in. Maybe.
I think too, despite all the precepts, around all of this stuff, we do forget that it's universal. Mm-hmm. It's both grief and suffering are a universal experience. And when you're the one suffering, it feels like the worst day ever. Right. Mm-hmm. And like it's never been this bad for anyone else.
Yeah.
So either out of, self-pity or shame to admit that you feel like shit.
Right.
Those two go hand in hand too, I find. I think we forget that universality all the time at our expense.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was lovely.
Nice job.
We put it right in a capsule. Let's put it back in the box.
Yep. Let's put that shit back in a box and move on with our day.
Tide Pod back in the container.
Yeah, now after that discussion, I'm hungry. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Lovely talking to you all today.
Likewise.
Yes.
We'll see you next week on this Naked Chat. Hey, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If something we said resonated, made you laugh, or made you think, we'd love it if you share it with someone who might need it too. And if you're curious about going alcohol-free or just ready to feel more connected to yourself, check out This Naked Mind. Annie's work brought us all together, and we're so grateful for the impact it's had. On that note, a big thank you to Annie Grace and This Naked Mind for making this podcast possible. We'll see you next time on This Naked Chat.